Crazy, crazy stories of hyperinflation during the fall of the Soviet Union, people's wealth, their time and energy slipping, literally slipping through their hands as they run to the bank, the black market to try to get anything of value. These are the lessons that we are about to talk about. These are the lessons from the past that humans, unfortunately, continue to have to learn over and over and over again. This is intertwined with my monthly newsletter, with where we go through the investments over the last 15 years that I've been making that have, God willing, done us very well. Assets that we hold, very little third parties that we're in control of, that we're not banking on other people being there for us, because that's just not the chapter of society we're in. So let's go through this, and I'm going to share this. That way you guys can see this. Fighting the crypto bros and the Bitcoin evangelists for a few years really didn't get me that far. Cost me tens of millions of dollars in fiat, but that's not the biggest thing. More importantly, it cost me my family's wealth, the ability to be spied on and have my wealth confiscated. Fortunately, one of those things didn't happen. My wealth wasn't confiscated. However, I did lose wealth, and I was spied on because I chose to be inside the system. Now, being inside the system in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, I mean, that was fine. The government wasn't after people necessarily, unlike the last 10, 15 years, where we have Lois Lerner back from the IRS 10, 15 years ago in the Obama-Biden administration, literally going after conservative people. Now, if you think this is just a red or blue issue, then you're sadly mistaken. It's not a red versus blue. It's a state versus you. It's collectivism versus individualism. It's a state enforcing and coercing you to do what you want them to do. And many people I know on both sides of the aisle say the same thing, Brandon. Well, we can't have Bitcoin. We can't have certain things because the government won't let us do it. Excuse me? We are the government. Have you read the Declaration of Independence? Well, therein lies the problem. Most people haven't. Government-run schools don't make people learn their history, don't make people learn the Constitution of the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence for good reason, because they don't want you to know that you have the power, that the governments work for you. Hence why we're in this situation. This is why we find ourselves in a dire situation where we are now at the behest of our government and we work for them. We are serfs to the state. We pay taxes on a counterfeited currency that people just conjure up out of thin air, type digits into a computer, and we spend our time and energy away from our families and loved ones to go earn that and then spend back to the government and give taxes back to the government, tribute back to the government, and pay interest on top of those things, and inflation. Think about that. Anyway, I digress. Fortunately, again, one of those things didn't happen, but do you think that a corrupt government on either side, whether it's a Trump administration, a Biden administration, or a Kamala administration, or a Michelle Obama, or a John McCain, a Mitt Romney, all these people of the past and the people going forward to the future like them, do you think that things are really just going to be different and they're not going to come after people who are going against them? As the system collapses, as we said many times here, as the system collapses, things will continue to deteriorate and the government will try to assert more power going forward. They will try to do more and more things to keep that power. One of my good friends the other day was telling me a story that I work with at Bitcoin Trading Cards. Growing up in Macedonia in the early 90s, at the end of the Cold War, the Berlin Wall had just fallen and communism was defeated. They experienced a hyperinflation where there was 62% inflation each day. He said his parents would run to the black market once they received their paycheck, and the value would literally be slipping through their hands as they carried it like sand. That's how fast things were deteriorating and inflating away. The government printing massive amounts of currency, as you can imagine. They would exchange it for German Deutschmarks, which was the most reliable thing they had available in the black market. Then one day he said his family all got together and it was freaking out, but no one had died. He was confused. What was going on? He thought to himself. At around 10 years old, he couldn't comprehend what was happening. He found out years later that the bank where his grandparents had put their life savings had taken all of their wealth, a bail-in. A trusted third party like pensions, endowments, insurance companies, brokerage accounts, banks, credit unions, you name it, are all relying on you, believing that they will be there in 50 years or 10 years or 5 years or 100 years when you need them. Do you know that that's a guaranteed certainty? Heck, they don't even know if it's a guaranteed certainty. All you have to do is watch the FDIC video that I put here a year ago that has 15,000 views, where the panel, the roundtable, literally talks about the depositors' wealth and banks collapsing, about them taking the depositors' wealth and the banks collapsing. This is in America just 18 months ago. Literally here in America. And they're laughing. They're laughing at you saying, oh, there's a lot more people here that believe in the banking system than we do. Ha ha ha. It's a minute-long video. This is our clown world. This is it.
It's really important. I mean, it's a little bit conflicted, right? I mean, it's important that people understand they can be bailed in, but you don't want a huge run on the institution. But they're going to be.
People need to know, but I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets if they just assume they're going to pay my claim. Right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
There we have it. Again, I know this ruffles a lot of feathers. People get scared. It's triggering. Absolutely is. I went through the same process after reading story after story, of seeing people in similar situations, reading books, whatever it might have been. This is the process, though, that we all have to go through and to learn and see what's going on. Most of us don't have to cross or see someone get hit by a car crossing the street to know we need to look both ways. We can learn from other people's mistakes. We can learn from Cyprus surveillance. We can learn from the guy in the Eurozone who just said there's a bunch of Euros sitting there and doing nothing that we can just take. They are telegraphing what they're going to do. These people hide things in plain sight. The ruling class, these people, the ruling class that we put into power generally. There are a lot of unelected bureaucrats. However, we put these people into power. We give them the power. As Plato said, those who don't involve themselves in politics will be governed by their inferiors. And that's where we find ourselves. The greatest threat we have in front of us is apathy and indifference. This can't happen here in America. There's no way, Brandon. It's 2024. There's no way. Like somehow we're different. Like we're above all these people. We're above everyone around the world. And unfortunately, these things are happening here in America. They're happening all over. These things have collapsed. Banks are collapsing. Unfortunately, these things are happening here in America. Banks are collapsing. They have collapsed, and more are going to collapse. We just have one collapsing this week, a bunch a year ago. We are no different than other human beings around the world. I have seen this story for 20 years of my life playing out, and have continued to prepare as much as I possibly can in an investment role, playing professional hockey, being in politics, and then starting my own businesses and investing myself, having a family office, raising money, doing real estate, dealing with entities, dealing with corporations, dealing with municipalities and city governments and counties and states. I've prepared to the best of my ability so far. And I try to spread the word and give my experiences and talk about my experiences. I know most will not follow them. I'm not Elon Musk. I don't have the following. We all must go our own way. Most will not follow these things. Most will not hear it. They will not listen, even if they do hear it. We all must go our own ways. We all must make our own bed, and then we lay in it. Accountability is what is lacking in this country, unfortunately. Humility, something I'm trying to work on every single day. How can I get better? Who can I talk to? How can we grow? Ducks fly together. And community is the number one aspect of a survival situation. So let's look at the portfolio the last few months. You can see the big thing, as you can tell, we went from a very balanced portfolio, if you will, over the last handful of years. And wealth has continued to grow. And now you can see really just since November, a 44% allocation in Bitcoin has now really grown. And again, we have, you put your Bitcoin in cold storage. You put it so people can't get to it. And you can't even get to it. You make it so you don't even want to sell it. You can't sell it. It takes you a couple steps, takes you a little bit just to be able to even get rid of it. It's savings. It's long-term savings. This stuff can be scattered around the world, multi-signature, it's not complicated to get going, but it takes a few minutes of homework to be able to figure it out. If you can use a phone, you can do this very easily, but making it so you are really impenetrable to attack. And you can see this Bitcoin continues to grow and grow and grow. And now this month, 61%, up from 33% just even in September, October, and now 61% of the portfolio. And as I said before, I've been saying for a while now, this will continue to happen. This will continue to grow. we will continue to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. This will continue to grow, and the Bitcoin will continue to eat the portfolio. That's really how this works, quite literally. Bitcoin continues to eat up the entire portfolio over 4-year tranches. This will continue to happen as we are just starting to hit the bull run phase in the 4-year halving cycle, which is coming up in about 40 to 45 days. The last 2 years of the bear market, and I took a lot of flack from people, which is good to check yourself. But my mission isn't in making fiat gains. Maybe sometimes I'm too idealistic. However, my belief is in building a completely new future built upon a new monetary foundation of rock. And this is the one thing, this log chart is really what helped me kind of realize everything and see that it's the network effect. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin ever, and really probably less than that. There are 42 million millionaires in the world, and they all have to fight over that small amount of Bitcoin with their worthless fiat. So imagine the dollars and the fiat currencies rushing in to purchase only 21 million Bitcoin. If there's a supply shock and a supply lock, and there's a huge demand increase, what's the only thing that changes? Well, it's price. It's the amount of fiat that you have to give into the system that gets sucked in and destroyed by the black hole of Bitcoin. That takes and people say, well, what happens when fiat goes away then, Brandon? Well, then everything's priced in Bitcoin, in sats, in satoshis. Your car is 100,000 sats, or your Citadel, your 100-acre estate is 1 Bitcoin. These things are going to be traded, and people say, again, well, can you buy anything right now? Yes, absolutely you can. You can buy all kinds of things. You can buy anything with Bitcoin right now. Can you go directly and scan your code on most things? No, you can't do that directly now, but you can buy, there's many ways to buy gift cards with Bitcoin and transfer things immediately, instantaneously, in person or online. And soon, as people will only accept Bitcoin, the hardest money, and say, I don't want your trash tokens, I don't want your worthless fiat currencies, things will start to become. Peter Schiff himself said, what will change you, Peter? Well, when everything is priced in Bitcoin. Well, things are priced in Bitcoin. Everything is priced in Bitcoin and denominated. You can denominate in Bitcoin and see very clearly that everything falls to its marginal cost of production, to zero in terms of Bitcoin. That's the game changer. And this network effect, the log chart, are the two things that woke me up. And I realized everything gets cheaper in Bitcoin. In the log chart, the network continues to make higher highs and higher lows as the network grows. If the hash rate goes up, wallets are created, users come online. It's a network effect. This is something that, again, we see in the tech world. The dollar has a network effect, but that's losing steam. That's going the other way. People are saying, I'm getting rid of it. China, Russia, people are saying, I'm out. BRICS, all these things. The network is losing strength. And that's why U.S. has to continue to do crazier and crazier and crazier things moving forward. So we have about 61% in Bitcoin. The fundamentals are the big thing. And look at your wallets. Your hot wallets are your ones in your mobile apps. Cold storage are the ones where you can keep long-term savings. That's when you're going to keep 95, 99% of your Bitcoin, your wealth. Real estate, positive cash flowing, good old real estate. We just had another one of our tenants move out. So that was wonderful. another one of the tenants move out, which is really, really fun. And this is what happens with real estate. And they took pretty good care of the property, fortunately. But even when you have good tenants, issues still arise. Real estate is really a full-time thing. If you're going to manage properly, buy properly, raise money properly, make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I needed 10 years in real estate just in order to have the experience to do all those things correctly. So this continues to go down because we've sold some properties over the last handful of years, but also because Bitcoin continues to eat everything. We have about 14% in cash flowing rental real estate. That's the key there, is the rental side of things. Commodities like gold and silver, oil wells, uranium, wheat, corn, etc. Again, I think silver is going to do very well in the coming years because of the green revolution, people trying to force us into this green world before the market's ready for it. The green revolution is fine, but government shouldn't be forcing everyone to do it when the market's not ready for it. And that's what we're seeing right now. But again, I'm not buying anymore personally. The ounces I do have will stay in case of crisis. And those are all hidden away in different spots, which is, again, diversifying and understanding and being able to track where those things are. But again, I might offload some of it potentially to buy the faster horse, which is Bitcoin, because I don't think we're going to go into an Armageddon situation. We could, but it's a tail risk. So you have to manage your risk. That's the thing I love doing, is trying to manage risk and look at things from percentage basis and risk assessment scenarios. This asset class is manipulated by the big banks, central banks, and commercial traders. So we have 11% and it continues to shrink because Bitcoin, again, continues to eat things up. And I don't like to be in manipulated markets, to be totally honest with you. So it's not something I love doing. Paper, stocks, and bonds here. So we have 2% in about 2 to 3% in paper. So the paper position has gone up about 2 to 3x in just the past month or so because we hold a few of the Bitcoin ETFs. The small IRA my wife has started to grow a ton because of the Bitcoin. But again, this isn't real Bitcoin. It is bought by the custodian and you don't get to hold the keys. So it's a paper asset. And that's why it's in this paper column. This could get taken by the government at any point, just like any other third-party asset we talk about. Brokerage accounts, pensions, 401ks, endowments, etc. So that's why you don't hold much of this. And it's just not the chapter of the book we're in right now. Like I said, these things aren't all, there's nuance to these things. Decades ago, this was, America was a rules-based place with a good justice system. Now we've got people trying to imprison political opponents. We've got all kinds of things stuff going on. We've got people being rejected healthcare because they're deciding not to do something to their body that the government wants them to do. So we've got all kinds of things that you can't plan on anymore. You can't just plan like, oh, this is just going to go how I think it's always gone. We're not in that chapter anymore. We are past that. And that's where my mind over the last 15 years has seen these stories play out and seen America go down the path of all the history books I've read of collapsing empires. And I don't think the trend is friendly, at least for the time being. It will be in the future, but that's going to be on a Bitcoin standard. It's going to be on a sound money standard once it's able to correct the feedback loop and make everything aligned again. And again, these are the three different Bitcoin ETFs that we have. Just a reminder there. Again, if not financial advice, this is just what we're doing and where we are right now. And I'm adhering to the invest in what you know principle. And like I said, 2 to 3% in paper markets as of right now. Cash and businesses. We have a dwindling pile of cash we keep using to buy chunks of Bitcoin each week as our normal savings. I want to trade my finite time and energy for a finite asset. That is it. Hence why Bitcoin is the only equal I have found in 20 years of studying this, in monetary history and in finance, etc., and investing. To a lesser extent, some silver and gold. And that's why, like we said, we've got some of that as well. We don't want dollars. We don't want to save those long term. You might have those short term in 6 to 12 month scenarios where you can have some dry powder and maybe buy a new asset or whatever it is, or be able to live day to day. But it's a debt instrument from the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve note right across the top, it says it's a debt interest instrument. Every dollar bill out there is owed back to the Federal Reserve with interest. It is not equity. It's not capital. So we have to, it's not an asset. It's a liability on our balance sheet. That starts changing everything of how you look at things and how you invest. And again, we might invest into Bitcoin trading cards as well, which is who I lead marketing and PR for. And I get to do, what I believe is one of the more fun things and one of my superpowers, which is the marketing and PR side. So this is one of my favorite cards. So I just want to share, but 12% in cash in businesses right now. Remember, this is the end of the day. I have seen the perils of the fiat debt-based foundation built on sand. This is why I've also, the stories I've heard, seeing it from other people's perspectives as well, seeing the perils of a fiat debt-based monetary system around the world, seeing it here. I will do everything in my power to see the world rebuilt in a way that provides fairness, justice, property rights, liberty, and equity for all people. That is where the right and the left come together. If that sounds familiar, that line, that's because it's right and left words being used. This is where we realize it's not red versus blue. It's a state versus you. 95% of people want the same thing. They want freedom. They want to be left alone. They want to be able to choose what they want to do in life. But you shouldn't be. Fiat makes you have your hand in everyone else's cookie jar. And it forces you to, well, I'm paying for your healthcare, or you're paying for my childcare, or we're doing this and that. That's what fiat does. It breaks all the incentives and misaligns everything. And now everyone's in each other's business. Bitcoin aligns all incentives, an equity-based world, an equity-based money, a neutral money that captures deflation. Now people have a higher standard of living, and the gains go to the people instead of to the government, to the ruling class. And now the people get to decide, do I want to be charitable or not? Do I have to be charitable or not? Maybe I don't. Maybe there's a lot less charity to be needed because people are just wealthier. So these things start to come together, and people start to get to decide what they're doing instead of being coerced and forced by the government and other people. You cannot have capitalism built on a fiat debt-based currency. It devolves into socialism and then communism every single time, without exception. We are living that nightmare currently. As for me, I'm buckling myself in and strapping up for the fight ahead. It will not be easy, and I do not know if I will make it, but it's the only fight worth having. And I know that's why many of you are here listening. I know some of you think that I've really lost it and drank the Kool-Aid. However, I've always been very conservative in my approach my entire life. When your education goes up on anything, you tend to allocate more to it. However, when you believe something will become the new monetary system in the future and all the tech and the trends point to it, there are certain times when people get to invest in things before it becomes mainstream. Think about Malibu or Miami real estate here in America. When people were coming over here in the 1600s and 1700s. Think about oil or railroads in the late 1800s, or even the computer revolution in the late 20th century. Many of us didn't have the chance to win those races, or win those classes, but we do now. We are in the new era, the front of the new monetary and tech computer revolution. It will not be evenly distributed, just like those other eras were not either. As Robert Kiyosaki just realized recently, really recently, just talking to Robert Breedlove Moore and Jeff Booth, some amazing mentors in the new world, the new monetary system space, he has recently realized as well. He was buying Bitcoin, but now he's starting to get it. He's starting to understand. And he's one of my biggest mentors for the last 15 years. The person that really got me to start understanding and start questioning things and changing my context. Bitcoin makes you change as a person. You don't change Bitcoin. Everyone has tried to change Bitcoin. People are always trying to attack it, change it. Bitcoin continually changes people, though. It doesn't make you, it does in a sense force you to change, but it just is what it is. And people conform and change to it. It's not about fiat gains. This is the important part. Again, it's not about fiat gains. Those systems are dying. It's not about fiat gains and trying to acquire more US trash tokens, aka dollar bills. It's about a completely new monetary system. Politics is downstream from culture, as Andrew Breitbart noted, and BJ Dichter always reminds me. If we change the hearts of men and educate on truth, then I have the faith that governments will reflect that transformation. And if they don't, government will be defunded by the new emergent monetary system, and they will cease to exist. Stay strong. I would love to get your thoughts on this. I appreciate you being here. Please share this out. The algorithm hates truth. Question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. Trust but verify what I'm saying. And this is not financial advice. It is freedom advice. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.